The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. The ceiling stretched up so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Massive pillars of pure crystal rose from the floor like frozen lightning. The walls showed images of 1,000 different worlds, each one home to a species that belonged to the Council. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked across the polished floor. Her footsteps echoed in the vast space. She was human, which meant she was shorter than most of the other beings in the room. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style. She wore the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. The uniform looked plain next to the fancy robes and armor of the other ambassadors. Elena had walked this path many times before. For 12 years, she had come to this hall to speak for humanity. She had made deals, solved problems, and kept the peace between angry species. Today would be different. Today would be the last time. Around the circular chamber, the other ambassadors sat in their special seats. The Zephyrians floated in tanks of glowing gas. Their bodies looked like jellyfish made of starlight. They controlled most of the trade routes in the galaxy. The Krillians stood tall and proud in their black armor. They were warriors who had conquered 100 worlds. The ethereals seemed to glow with soft light. They spent their time thinking deep thoughts and writing poetry about the meaning of life. There were dozens of other species, too. Some breathed water, some breathed acid, some did not breathe at all. They all had one thing in common. They all thought they were better than humans. Elena reached the center of the hall. A small platform rose from the floor to lift her up. Even with the platform, she had to look up at most of the other ambassadors. The Krillian war chief was twice as tall as she was. His red eyes glowed with what might have been amusement. "The human wishes to speak," announced the council's voice system. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "Ambassador Vasquez of the Terran Federation has requested time to address the council." A low sound filled the hall. It was not quite laughter, but it was not respect either. The Zephyrians pulsed with brighter light. The ethereals tilted their heads in that way they did when they thought something was cute but unimportant. Elena had heard that sound before. She had heard it when she suggested better ways to move cargo ships. She had heard it when she warned about pirates in the outer systems. She had heard it when she offered to help design better weapons for the defense fleets. The sound meant the same thing every time. It meant they thought humans were useful but not equal. "Thank you for your time," Elena said. Her voice was calm and clear. The hall systems made sure everyone could hear her no matter what kind of ears they had. "I have an important message from the government of Earth and all human colonies." The Krillian war chief made a clicking sound with his mandibles. "Is the little human going to tell us how to fight wars again?" His voice was like grinding metal. "Or perhaps she wants to explain how to build ships that work properly." More of that not quite laughter filled the hall. Elena waited for it to stop. She had learned to be patient with these beings. Humans were good at being patient. They were good at waiting and watching and figuring out how things worked. It was what made them useful to the council. "For 87 years, Elena continued, humans have served the Galactic Council. We have built your space stations. We have designed your trade routes. We have maintained your defense systems. We have solved problems that your scientists could not solve. We have stopped wars that your diplomats could not stop." The ethereal named Luminous Thought in Crystal spoke next. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Yes, dear humans are quite helpful. You fix things that break, you make things work better. It is a useful skill for a young species." "Young species?" Elena repeated. She almost smiled. "Humans have been traveling between stars for over 200 years. We have colonies in 47 systems. We have built machines that can think and ships that can cross the galaxy in days, but you still call us young." The Zephyrian trademaster pulsed with yellow light. This meant it was being condescending. Compared to the great civilizations represented here, humans are indeed young. The Zephyrian collective has existed for 12,000 years, We have mastered the secrets of space and time. What humans call advanced we consider primitive. Elena nodded slowly. She had expected this. She had heard these same words in different forms for years. The other species never said humans were stupid. They just made it clear that humans were not as smart, not as advanced, not as important as everyone else. You are right, Elena said. Humans are not as old as your civilizations. We do not have your ancient wisdom. We do not understand the deep mysteries of the universe like you do. The hall grew quiet. This was not what the ambassadors had expected to hear. Usually, humans argued back. They presented facts and figures. They tried to prove they were worthy of respect. But, Elena continued, we have something else. We have the ability to make things work. When your beautiful cities have no power, humans fix the generators. When your perfect trade routes break down, humans find new paths. When your enemies attack, humans design the weapons that stop them. The Krillian war chief shifted in his seat. His armor made scraping sounds. Humans are good workers. We have never denied this. Workers, Elena repeated. Yes, that is how you see us, useful workers. Not partners, not equals. Just workers who can be called when something breaks. She looked around the hall. Every ambassador was watching her now. Even the ones who usually ignored the human speeches were paying attention. Last month, Elena said, the ethereal homeworld almost lost its main moon. The gravity stabilizers were failing. Your greatest minds could not solve the problem. You called for human engineers. They worked for 6 days without sleep to save your moon. How many ethereals thanked them? Luminous thought in crystal was quiet for a moment. The engineers were compensated according to standard council rates. Compensated, Elena said. Paid money, but not thanked, not honored. Not treated like the beings who saved millions of lives. The Zephyrian trademaster pulsed with red light now. This meant annoyance. What is the point of this speech, human? Are you seeking more payment for your services? Elena shook her head. No, I am not seeking anything. I am here to give you information. The human government has made a decision. She reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple metal cube, but it contained a message that would change everything. 3 days ago, Elena said, the Earth Parliament voted. All human colonies voted. Every human citizen in council space voted. The decision was unanimous. She activated the device. Her words were now being recorded and broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Effective immediately, all human participation in council activities will cease. All human personnel will be withdrawn from council space. All human-built systems will be shut down or transferred to local control. All human services will be discontinued. The hall erupted in noise. Ambassadors spoke in dozens of languages. The Krillians roared. The Zephyrians flashed like angry lightning. The ethereals made sounds like breaking glass. Elena waited for quiet. When it came, she spoke again. We are not declaring war. We are not seeking revenge. We are simply leaving. You have made it clear that humans are workers, not partners. Workers can quit their jobs? You cannot do this. The Krillian war chief stood up. His massive form cast a shadow over Elena's platform. The council forbids it. The council, Elena said calmly, has no authority over humanity. We joined the council. As volunteers, we can leave as volunteers. She looked around the hall one more time. At the beautiful, ancient, proud species who ruled the galaxy. At the beings who had built wonders and conquered empires and unlocked the secrets of creation. You will do fine without us, she said. You are older and wiser and more advanced than humans could ever be. You certainly do not need a bunch of primitive workers. Elena stepped down from the platform. She walked toward the exit. Behind her, the noise grew louder. Ambassadors demanded that she stop. They called for votes and emergency sessions and armed intervention. She did not look back. 72 hours later, every human in council space was gone. Ships, stations, and colonies stood empty. The great machines that humans had built hummed. Quietly in the darkness, Waiting for maintenance that would never come, the galaxy was about to learn what happened when the workers quit. 6 months had passed since the humans left. At first, the Galactic Council thought everything would be fine. The great species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years before humans ever left their home planet. Surely they could manage without. A bunch of primitive workers thought they were wrong. The first problem started with the Zephyrian trade routes. For 50 years, human logistics specialists had worked to make cargo shipping perfect. They studied how fast ships could travel, where they needed to stop for fuel, and which paths avoided dangerous areas like black holes and pirate bases. The humans had built a system that moved goods across the galaxy faster and cheaper than ever before. Now that system was falling apart. Captain Vextar floated in his command tank aboard the cargo ship Profitable Venture. His jellyfish-like body pulsed with angry red light. Around him, his crew worked frantically at control panels that flickered with warning messages. "Where is the cargo ship Beautiful Prophet?" Vextar demanded. "It should have arrived at Nexus Station 3 days ago." His navigation officer checked the screens. "Sir, Beautiful Prophet is lost somewhere in the spiral arm," the last message said there. Navigation computer was giving strange readings. Strange readings? Vextar's light turned from red to purple. Purple meant he was confused and worried. "The navigation systems are Zephyrian made. They are perfect." "Yes, sir, but ... The officer hesitated. "The routing software was designed by humans. When they left, they took all the updates and maintenance codes with them." Vextar had never thought about the routing software. It was just something that worked. Ships put in where they wanted to go, and the computer told them the best way to get there. He had not known that humans had to constantly update the software as new dangers appeared or trade conditions changed. "How many ships are lost?" he asked. The officer checked more screens. 17 ships are overdue. 5 more are stuck at stations because their cargo manifests don't match the computer records. 3 ships crashed into each other at the Centauri hub because the traffic control system stopped working. Vextar's light turned almost black. In 50 years of commanding cargo ships, he had never seen such chaos. The Zephyrian Collective was losing millions of credits every day. Other trade captains were reporting the same problems across the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the beautiful crystal world of Ethereal Prime, Luminous Thought in Crystal was discovering that thinking deep thoughts was not enough to keep a planet running. The Ethereals had built their cities to be works of art. Towers of living crystal grew toward the sky like frozen music. Gardens of singing flowers covered the ground between buildings. Everything was designed to inspire peaceful contemplation and artistic creation, but the power generators that kept the crystal towers glowing were failing. Luminous Thought in Crystal stood in the main control room, staring at displays covered with red warning lights. The beauty of the room was ruined by the harsh sounds of alarms and the smell of overheating equipment. "Noble thought?" said a younger ethereal named Harmony of Distant Stars. "The backup generators in the South District have shut down. The crystal gardens are beginning to dim." "This should not be happening," Luminous Thought in Crystal said. Its voice had lost the musical quality that usually made ethereals sound wise and peaceful. "The generators were built by our finest artists. They are beautiful and efficient." "Yes, Noble Thought, but the humans designed the control systems. They said our artistic generators needed what they called practical maintenance protocols. We thought this was crude thinking, so we did not learn how to do it ourselves." Luminous Thought in Crystal had believed that beauty and art were more important than crude mechanical knowledge. The ethereals were philosophers and poets. They created meaning and wonder. Humans were just workers who dealt with dirty mechanical things. Now the mechanical things were breaking, and no amount of beautiful philosophy could fix them. "Have we tried meditation?" Luminous Thought in Crystal asked hopefully. "We have meditated. For 6 hours, Noble Thought. The generators are still failing." On the screen, more red lights appeared. Another district was losing power. Soon, the crystal towers would go dark and the singing gardens would fall silent, but the worst problems were happening in Krillian. Space, War Chief Thrakmer stood in the command center of Fortress Prime, the greatest military base in the galaxy. Through the armored windows he could see the massive ships of the Krillian war fleet. Each ship was a work of military art. Covered in weapons and armor that could destroy entire planets, the ships looked powerful, but Thrakmer knew the truth. They were helpless, report, he growled at his weapons master. Sir, the defense grid is showing more errors. Sectors 7 through 12 are completely offline. The early warning sensors are giving false readings. 3 of our patrol ships fired on each other this morning because the identification systems failed. Thrakmer's mandibles clicked with frustration. The Krillian defense grid was supposed to protect their core worlds from any attack. It was a network of satellites, sensors, and automated weapons that could destroy any enemy before they got close to Krillian planets. Humans had designed the grid. They had said the Krillian warriors were brave and strong, but they needed better technology to support their natural fighting skills. The Krillians had agreed, as long as they did not have to learn how the technology worked. Warriors fought, engineers fixed machines. There was no honor in understanding computer code. Can our engineers repair the systems? Thrakmer asked. The weapons master looked uncomfortable. Sir, our engineers tried, but the defense grid uses something called adaptive algorithms and quantum encryption protocols. The humans never taught us how those work. Why not? We told them we did not need to know. We said Krillian honor was more important than human technical knowledge. Thrakmer remembered those conversations. The humans had tried to explain their systems to Krillian engineers. The engineers had said they would rather die than learn primitive human technology. Now the humans were gone, and the most advanced defense network in the galaxy was slowly falling apart. How long before the grid fails completely? He asked. Unknown. Sir, maybe weeks, maybe days. The system is too complex for us to understand. That night, similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. On the aquatic world of Deep Current, the Aquarians discovered that their underwater cities were losing life support. Humans had designed the systems that turned seawater into breathable atmosphere. The Aquarians had beautiful theories about fluid dynamics, but they could not fix a broken air pump on the desert world of Sand's End. The Crystalline Confederation found that their mining robots had stopped working. The robots used human-designed software to find valuable minerals deep underground. Without the software updates, the robots just dug random holes in the spiral nebula. The gaseous assemblies floating cities were drifting out of their carefully planned orbits. Humans had calculated the exact positions needed to keep the cities stable in the nebula's complex gravity fields. Now the cities were slowly falling toward the nebula's core, back on Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. The great hall that had once been filled with proud, confident voices was now full of worried murmurs and angry complaints. The Zephyrian Trademaster's light was dim with exhaustion. The collective has lost 30% of our shipping capacity. If this continues, we will not be able to maintain trade between the outer worlds. Luminous thought in crystal's glow flickered weakly. Ethereal Prime is operating on emergency power. Our cities of art and wisdom are becoming dark and silent. War Chief! Thrakmer's red eyes burned with fury and embarrassment. The defense grid that protects our core worlds is failing. We are vulnerable to attack for the first time in centuries. Around the hall, other ambassadors reported similar problems. Food distribution networks were breaking down. Communication systems were failing. Scientific research stations were going offline. Everywhere the humans had worked, systems were failing or running badly. The Council had always seen the galaxy as their creation. They had built great civilizations and conquered vast territories. Humans were just useful additions like better tools or more efficient workers. Now they were learning the truth. The humans had not just worked for the great civilizations. They had become the invisible foundation that held everything together. They had fixed problems before anyone noticed them. They had improved systems so gradually that no one realized how much better things had become. The ethereal philosopher, distant wisdom and starlight spoke for everyone when it said, "Perhaps we made an error in judgment regarding the humans." War Chief. Thrakmor slammed his armored fist on his chair. Error? We treated them exactly as they deserved. They were workers. Useful workers, but workers nonetheless. Workers who kept our worlds running, the Zephyrian trademaster pointed out. Workers who maintained our defenses. Workers who solved problems we did not even know we had. So what do you suggest? Thrakmor demanded. That we beg them to come back? That we admit the mighty Galactic Council cannot function without primitive humans? The hall fell silent. That was exactly what they needed to do, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Finally, luminous thought in crystal spoke. Perhaps we should attempt. 2 years had passed since the humans left. The galaxy was in chaos, but the worst was yet to come. Deep in the dark space between stars, something ancient was stirring. The monitoring stations that watched the empty regions had gone silent months ago. No one noticed because the stations were built and maintained by humans. No one thought they were important because nothing dangerous had come from deep space in over 300 years. The Void Reapers were returning. Captain Zekthar of the Krillian destroyer Iron Fang was the first to see them. His ship was patrolling the outer edge of Krillian space, far from the protection of the defense grid that was slowly failing. Zekthar was a young warrior, eager to prove himself in battle. He had been hoping to find pirates or rebels to fight. Instead, he found Nightmare. Captain, his sensor officer called out, "Unknown contacts approaching." "They are big." Zekthar looked at the main screen. At first, he saw nothing but stars. Then the contacts became visible, and his blood turned cold. The ships were enormous. Each one was the size of a small moon, built from black metal that seemed to absorb light. They moved in perfect formation, dozens of them, like a dark tide flowing across space. Their hulls were covered with weapons that glowed with terrible energy. "Are they responding to our signals?" Zekthar asked. "No, sir." "They are not responding to anything. They are just coming toward us." Zekthar had studied military history. He knew about the Void Reapers, the ancient machines that had terrorized the galaxy long ago. Every warrior learned about them in battle school, but they had been gone for so long that most people thought they were just legends. "Send a message to Fortress Prime," he ordered. "Tell them the Void Reapers have returned. Tell them—" He paused as one of the massive ships turned toward his destroyer. "Tell them we need help." The Iron Fang was a powerful warship, armed with the best weapons the Krillians could build. Against the Void Reaper ship, it was like an insect facing a dragon. Energy beams lanced out from the enormous vessel. The Iron Fang's shields held for exactly 3 seconds. Then the ship was torn apart in a burst of fire and metal. Captain Zekthar's last message reached Fortress Prime just as the Void Reaper fleet emerged from deep space and began its attack on the galaxy. War Chief Thrakmor received the message in his command center. For a moment, he could not believe what he was hearing. The Void Reapers were supposed to be gone forever. They had been defeated and driven away centuries ago by the combined fleets of the entire galaxy. "Are we certain this report is accurate?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Sir, we have lost contact with 6 patrol ships in the outer sectors. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward our space." Thrakmor's mandibles clicked with worry. "What about the defense grid? Can it stop them?" The intelligence officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, the grid is operating at 30% efficiency. Many of the automated weapons are offline. The targeting systems are giving random errors." Thrakmor remembered when the defense grid was built, humans had warned that the Void Reapers might return someday. They had designed the grid specifically to fight the ancient machines. Every weapon, every sensor, every piece of software was created to counter Void Reaper technology. Now the grid was broken, and the humans who built it were gone. "Send messages to all Council worlds," Thrakmor ordered. "Tell them the Void Reapers have returned. Tell them we need every ship they can send." But the other Council worlds had their own problems. On Nexus Prime, the council was meeting in emergency session. Half the lights in the Great Hall were out because the power systems were failing. Several ambassadors appeared only as dim holograms because their homeworlds could no longer maintain clear communication links. The Zephyrian Trademaster pulsed with panicked yellow light. The collective cannot send our war fleet. Most of our ships are lost or broken down. The ones that still work cannot navigate properly without human routing systems. The ethereal representative flickered weakly. Ethereal Prime has no ships to send. Our orbital defense platforms went offline last week. We do not know how to restart them. Similar reports came from around the galaxy. The Aquarian fleet was trapped in their flooded spaceports because the water pumps had failed. The crystalline ships could not leave their bases because the launch computers were not working. The gaseous assembly's vessels were drifting helplessly in space. For 3 centuries, the great civilizations had built their military might on foundations of human engineering and human knowledge. When the humans left, those foundations crumbled. Grand Marshal Kethvara of the Aquarian Collective was one of the few military leaders who understood how bad things really were. She stood in her underwater command center, watching reports of destruction flow in from across the galaxy. "How many Void Reaper ships are there?" she asked her tactical officer. "At least 50 capital ships, Marshal, maybe more. They are moving in 3 separate fleets. One is attacking Krillian space. Another is heading for the Spiral Nebula. The third is moving toward the core worlds." Kethvara had fought in dozens of battles during her long career. She had never seen anything like this. The Void Reapers moved with perfect coordination. They struck exactly where defenses were weakest. They seemed to know every weakness in every system. "Marshal," her communications officer said, "we are receiving reports from the first battle sites. The automated defense stations are not engaging the enemy." "Why not?" "The stations are trying to use human-designed identification protocols to tell friend from enemy. The Void Reapers are not in the database, so the weapons are not firing." Kethvara closed her eyes in despair. The humans had built the identification systems to prevent friendly fire accidents. The systems were supposed to recognize council ships and protect them from automated weapons. But now those same systems were protecting the enemy because no one knew how to update them. "Can our engineers fix the problem?" "They are trying, Marshal. But the software is written in human code languages that we never learned." The first major battle happened at the Spiral Nebula. The gaseous assembly had built beautiful floating cities in the nebula's colorful clouds. The cities were works of art, filled with beings who lived their entire lives floating in the cosmic gases. The Void Reapers destroyed them all in less than an hour. The assembly's defense fleet tried to fight back. Their ships were graceful and fast, designed to move through the nebula's dangerous energy fields. But their weapons could not penetrate the Void Reapers' armor, and their shields collapsed under the ancient machine's overwhelming firepower. Worse, the fleet's battle tactics were all based on human strategic software. The software analyzed enemy movements and suggested the best ways to attack. But when the humans left, they had taken the tactical databases with them. The assembly ships fought using outdated battle plans that were centuries old. The Void Reapers adapted to every attack within minutes. Their artificial minds learned and evolved faster than any organic commander could think. Soon the graceful assembly ships were spinning helplessly through space, their hulls torn open and their crews dead. News of the defeat spread quickly through the galaxy. Fear began to replace the anger and frustration that had filled the past 2 years. The great civilizations had been arguing about trade routes and power grids. Now they faced extinction. On Ethereal Prime, luminous thought in crystal sat in its darkened meditation chamber. The beautiful crystal towers around the city had gone black as power failed. The singing gardens were silent. Even the air recyclers were barely working. "Noble thought," whispered Harmony of distant stars. "Ships are approaching our world, Void Reaper ships." Luminous thought in crystal felt something it had never experienced before: terror, pure, simple terror. The ethereals had spent thousands of years believing that wisdom and beauty would protect them from crude violence. They had built their civilization around art and philosophy, trusting that more practical species would handle dangerous things like warfare. How long before they arrive? It asked. 6 hours, Noble thought, maybe less. And our defenses? The orbital platforms are offline. The planetary shields are not responding. The evacuation ships cannot launch because their navigation computers are broken. Luminous thought in crystal understood with perfect clarity that its people were going to die. The most advanced philosophical minds in the galaxy could not restart a broken computer or fix a damaged weapon. All their wisdom was useless against simple mechanical failure. When the Void Reapers reached Ethereal Prime, they found a world that could not defend itself. The orbital weapons that should have protected the planet hung silent in space. The shield generators that could have deflected enemy fire sat dark and cold on the surface. The attack lasted 30 minutes. When it was over, Ethereal Prime was a dead world. The crystal cities lay in ruins. The meditation gardens were burned and empty. Thousands of years of art and philosophy had been wiped away by machines that cared nothing for beauty or wisdom. The news reached the Galactic Council just as Void Reaper ships appeared in the Nexus system. Through the Great Hall's windows, the ambassadors could see explosions lighting up space as the station's defenses tried and failed to stop the attack. War Chief Thrakmar stood before the council, his red eyes burning with. The Galactic Council was dying. Only 12 members remained from the original 47 species. The rest were either destroyed by the Void Reapers or had retreated to their deepest bunkers, waiting for the end. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime was dark and cold. Half the station had been evacuated when the life support systems finally collapsed. The remaining ambassadors met in a small emergency chamber, lit only by flickering emergency lights. War Chief Thrakmar stood at the center of the group. His proud armor was dented and scarred from the battles he had fought and lost. His red eyes held a desperate determination that bordered on madness. "We have one choice left," he announced. "We find the humans and bring them back." The few remaining ambassadors looked at him with expressions ranging from hope to despair. Trademaster Vextar S. light pulsed weakly in his damaged life support tank. "The humans vanished completely. Our best scouts have searched for 2 years. There is no trace of them anywhere." "Then we have not searched hard enough," Thrakmar growled. "We send ships to every system they ever visited. We go to Earth itself. We search until we find them." Luminous thought in crystal flickered like a dying star. It was one of the few ethereals to escape the destruction of their homeworld. "Even if we find them, why would they help us? We treated them as servants, we ignored their warnings, we dismissed their value until it was too late." Grand Marshal Kethvara of the Aquarian Collective spoke from her mobile water tank. "Because humans are not like us. They do not hold grudges the way other species do. They fix problems, even when the problems are not their fault." "You speak as if you know them well," observed the crystalline representative. Kethvara S. Gill slits fluttered with something that might have been shame. "I worked with human engineers for 15 years. I thought I was giving them orders. I never realized they were teaching me how to be a better commander. They never said I was wrong, even when I made stupid mistakes. They just quietly fixed the problems and made everything work better." Thrakmar nodded grimly. "Then we go to Earth? If the humans are anywhere, they will be at their homeworld." "Earth is on the other side of the galaxy," Vextar pointed out. "It will take months to reach it, assuming our ships can make the journey without breaking down completely." "Then we leave now," Thrakmar said. "Every day we wait, more worlds die." The journey to Earth was a nightmare. The surviving council ships were held together with emergency repairs and desperate hope. The navigation computers failed repeatedly, forcing the crews to plot courses by hand using ancient star charts. The communication systems broke down, leaving the small fleet scattered across space. 3 ships were lost completely when their life support systems shut down. 2 more had to be abandoned when their engines died. By the time the fleet reached the Sol system, only 5 vessels remained from the original 12. Thrakmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the small yellow star that humans called the sun. His heart sank as sensor readings came in. "Report," he ordered his tactical officer. "Sir, I am detecting no signs of human activity. Earth appears to be ... empty." On the main screen, Earth hung in space like a blue and green jewel. It looked exactly as it had when humans lived there. The continents were green with forests. The oceans sparkled with reflected sunlight. White clouds swirled in beautiful patterns across the surface, but there were no lights on the night side, no ships in orbit, no radio signals or energy signatures. Earth was beautiful and completely lifeless. "Take us into orbit," Thrakmer commanded. "Launch landing parties to the major human cities." The landing craft descended through Earth's atmosphere toward what had once been New Geneva, the capital of the human government. Thrakmer led the landing party himself, determined to find some clue about where the humans had gone. The city was intact but empty. Buildings stood exactly as they had been left, but no humans remained. Cars sat abandoned in the streets. Offices were filled with personal belongings that would never be claimed. Homes contained meals that had been left half-finished on kitchen tables. It was as if every human on Earth had simply vanished in the middle of their daily activities. "Search everything," Thrakmer ordered. "Find computers, records, anything that might tell us where they went." The search teams worked for days. They found human computers, but the systems were protected by security codes they could not break. They found libraries full of books written in human languages that few aliens could read. They found museums displaying human history and culture, but nothing that explained the Great Disappearance. In the basement of the human government building, they found something that made Thrakmer's blood run cold. It was a war room, filled with tactical displays and communication equipment. The displays still showed the last information they had received before the humans left. Maps of the galaxy marked with Void Reaper movement patterns. Analysis reports predicting exactly where and when the ancient machines would attack. Battle. Plans for defending every major world in Council space. The humans had known the Void Reapers were coming. They had known exactly what would happen when the ancient machines returned. And they had tried to warn the Council. Thrakmer found the final report, written by a human admiral named Sarah Chun. The document was labeled Contingency Plan, Operation Exodus. As he read the report, Thrakmer realized the terrible truth. The humans had not left because they were angry or hurt. They had left because they knew the galaxy was doomed, and they wanted to save their species. The report described how human scientists had detected signs of Void Reaper activity in deep space, how they had tried to warn the Council about the coming threat, how their warnings had been ignored or dismissed as human paranoia. The Council species refused to acknowledge the Void Reaper threat, Admiral Chun had written. They believe their ancient technologies and superior wisdom will protect them. They are wrong. When the Reapers return, they will find a galaxy that has forgotten how to defend itself. The report went on to describe Operation Exodus. While the Council species argued about trade routes and cultural superiority, the humans had been quietly preparing to leave. They had built new ships in secret. They had identified safe locations beyond the galaxy's edge. They had planned to evacuate their entire species before the Void Reapers arrived, but where had they gone? Thrakmer searched through more files and found his answer. The humans had not just left the galaxy. They had left this entire region of space. Using technology they had never shared with the Council, they had traveled to distant star clusters where the Void Reapers could not follow. "Sir," his communications officer called, "we are receiving a transmission." Thrakmer's heart leaped with hope. "From the humans?" "No, sir, from our scouts in the outer systems. The Void Reapers have reached the core worlds. Zephyr Prime fell 6 hours ago. Krillian Fortress Prime is under attack. They estimate complete galactic conquest within 2 weeks." Thrakmer stared at the empty city around him. Somewhere beyond the stars, the humans were safe and alive. Here in the galaxy they had once called home. their former colleagues were being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had tried to warn everyone about. "Sir," the communications officer said quietly, "there is more. The message contains a formal request from the surviving council members. They are authorizing us to surrender to the humans, to offer them complete control of the galaxy in exchange for their help." "Surrender?" Thrakmer's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, sir. The Council has voted to recognize humanity as the supreme authority in galactic affairs. They are prepared to submit to human rule if the humans will save what remains of our civilizations." Thrakmer looked up at the empty sky above Earth. For thousands of years, the great species had ruled the galaxy with pride and arrogance. They had treated humans as useful servants, never as equals. Now they were ready to kneel before the species they had once dismissed as primitive, but the humans were gone, and no one knew how to find them. "Send a message on all frequencies," Thrakmer commanded. "Broadcast it into deep space toward every star cluster we can reach. Tell them who we are. Tell them what has happened. Tell them—" He paused, struggling with words that burned his throat. "Tell them we were wrong. Tell them we need them. Tell them we will accept any terms they choose if they will help us." The message was sent, but space is vast and signals travel slowly. Even if the humans received it, even if they decided to help, it might take years for them to return. Meanwhile, the Void Reapers continued their systematic destruction of Galactic civilization. World after world fell to the ancient machines. Species that had existed for thousands of years were wiped out in hours. On his flagship orbiting the empty Earth, Thrakmer waited for an answer that might never come. Around him the galaxy burned, while the people who could have saved it remained hidden. Among distant stars, the great civilizations had finally learned the price of their pride. But their education might have come too late for anyone to survive it. In the cold darkness of space, automated beacons left behind by human engineers continued to broadcast their warnings about the Void Reaper threat. The messages repeated endlessly, transmitted by systems that no one else knew how to turn off. Thrakmer had been waiting in the empty Sol system for 3 weeks when the sky changed. It started as a shimmer in space, like heat waves rising from hot metal. Then the shimmer grew larger and brighter until it became a tear in reality itself. Through the tear came ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were human ships, but not as Thrakmer remembered them. The old human vessels had been practical and efficient, built for function rather than beauty. These new ships were something else entirely. They moved like living things, their hulls flowing and shifting as if made from liquid metal. Energy. Patterns danced across their surfaces in colors that had no names. Hundreds of ships emerged from the tear in space. Then thousands. The human fleet was so vast that it blocked out the stars. Each ship was larger and more advanced than anything the Council species had ever built. Thrakmer stood on his bridge, feeling very small and very ashamed. His flagship, once the pride of the Krillian war fleet, looked like a broken toy next to the magnificent human vessels. "Sir," his communications officer said with a shaking voice, "we are being hailed." "On screen," Thrakmer commanded. The face that appeared was human, but changed. Admiral Sarah Chun looked exactly as she had 3 years ago, but her eyes held depths that seemed to contain centuries of experience. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of someone who had seen the birth and death of stars. "War Chief Thrakmer," she said calmly, "we received your message." Thrakmer tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. Finally, he managed, "Admiral Chun, you ... We did, though it was not an easy decision." Admiral Chun's expression was unreadable. "We watched from our new homes as the galaxy burned. We saw the Void Reapers destroy world after world. We heard the Council's final surrender offer. Then Thrakmer said heavily. We were wrong about everything. Yes, we know." Admiral Chun was quiet for a moment. "The question now is what we should do about it." Before Thrakmer could answer, space around Earth filled with more tears in reality. Through them came other human fleets, each one different from the last. Some ships were made of pure energy, glowing like captured stars. Others seemed to be built from crystallized time itself. A few appeared to exist in several dimensions at once, their forms shifting and changing as they moved. "How many of you are there?" Thrakmor whispered. "Enough," Admiral Chun replied. "We have spent the last 3 years learning from civilizations that make the old Galactic Council look like children playing with sticks. We have grown beyond what we were. The question is whether we should use our new knowledge to save people who never valued us." On the main screen, Admiral Chun stepped aside. Behind her stood a figure that made Thrakmor's breath catch in his throat. It was human, but barely recognizable as such. The being seemed to be made of starlight and shadow, ancient and terrible and beautiful all at once. "I am Speaker for Terra," the figure said. Its voice echoed with the power of collapsing galaxies. "I speak for all humanity across all the stars we now call home. War Chief Thrakmor of the dying Krillian Empire, why should we save you?" Thrakmor felt his legs give way. He fell to his knees on his own bridge, something no Krillian warrior had ever done in front of an enemy. But these were not enemies. These were the people his civilization had treated as servants, now returned as gods. "Because," Thrakmor said, his voice breaking, "we were wrong. Because we learned too late that wisdom without humility is worthless. Because we finally understand that you were never our servants. You were our teachers and we were too proud to learn." The Speaker for Terra studied him with eyes that had seen the birth of universes. "You offer us the galaxy. You promise to obey our commands. You say you will accept any terms we choose. Do you truly understand what you are asking?" "I understand," Thrakmor replied. "I understand that we destroyed ourselves through arrogance. I understand that millions of beings are dying because we refuse to listen. I understand that only you can save what remains. And if we choose to let the galaxy burn? If we decide that this civilization has learned nothing and deserves nothing," Thrakmor closed his eyes, "then we deserve our fate. But the children hiding in bunkers on 1,000 worlds do not deserve to die for our mistakes. The innocent beings who trusted their leaders to protect them do not deserve to be destroyed by machines. If you save no one else, save them." The Speaker for Terra was silent for a long time. Around Earth, the human fleets waited motionless in space. Thrakmor could feel them deciding the fate of the galaxy. Finally, the speaker spoke. 3 years ago, Ambassador Elena Vasquez told your council that humans were tired of being treated as workers instead of partners. Do you remember what your response was?" "We said you were useful servants who should know your place." "Yes, you did." The speaker's voice carried infinite sadness. "And now you ask us to save you from consequences you brought upon yourselves." "I ask nothing for myself," Thrakmor said. "I ask only that you be better than we were. That you show the mercy we never showed you." The Speaker for Terra looked past Thrakmor to something only it could see. "The Void Reapers have destroyed 63 council worlds. 8 billion beings are dead. The surviving populations are scattered and broken. Your fleets are destroyed. Your governments have collapsed. Your technologies have failed. What remains of galactic civilization could fit in a single star system?" "Yes," Thrakmor whispered. "And you want us to fix this?" "I want you to be human," Thrakmor said. "To be what you always were. The people who fix things that are broken. Even when the breaking was not your fault." For the first time, the Speaker for Terra smiled. It was a gentle expression, filled with the same quiet competence that humans had always shown. "Admiral Chun," the speaker said, "begin Operation Restoration." "Yes, Speaker," Admiral Chun replied. Space around Earth erupted with activity. The human fleet spread out in perfect formation, moving faster than anything Thrakmor had ever seen. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions folded space and time to reach distant star systems instantly. Vessels made of pure energy swept toward the core worlds where Void Reapers still hunted survivors. "What are you doing?" Thrakmor asked. "What humans have always done," Admiral Chun answered. "We are fixing the problems that others created." The first reports came in within hours. Human ships were engaging Void Reaper fleets across the galaxy. But these were not the desperate battles that Council forces had fought. The humans moved with perfect coordination, using technologies that made the ancient machines look primitive. Void Reapers that had destroyed entire civilizations were stopped cold by human defenses. Weapons that had torn apart planets bounced harmlessly off human shields. The machines that had seemed unstoppable were being dismantled by beings who understood their weaknesses better than they understood themselves. How? Thrakmor asked in wonder. We had 3 years to prepare, Admiral, Chun explained. We studied the Void Reapers from our new homes beyond the galaxy. We learned how they think, how they fight, how they can be defeated. While you were struggling with broken computers, we were building weapons that could stop gods. On Thrakmor's screens, he watched impossible things happen. Human ships restored dead worlds to life with a touch. Broken defense stations rebuilt themselves as human technology flowed through them. Scattered refugee fleets found themselves surrounded by protective human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. The survivors, Thrakmor said urgently, can you save them? We are already saving them, the speaker for Terra replied. Every living being in this galaxy is under human protection now. The Void Reapers cannot harm them. And after? When the fighting is over? The speaker's expression grew serious. After we rebuild? But not the way things were before. The old council is dead, the old ways failed. What comes next will be different. Different how? The galaxy will be governed by those who understand that all intelligent life has value. That wisdom comes from cooperation, not domination. The true strength lies in protecting the weak, not conquering them. Thrakmor understood. You mean humanity will rule. We mean humanity will serve, the speaker corrected. As we always have. But this time we will serve as equals, not as workers. This time those we help will remember that help comes with responsibility. Around Earth, the last human ships were disappearing into folded space, racing to complete their rescue mission. Within days, every Void Reaper in the galaxy would be destroyed or disabled. Within weeks, the refugee populations would be resettled on restored worlds. Within months, a new government would be formed, but this government would be different. It would be built on the human principles of cooperation and mutual respect. Species would contribute their unique strengths while acknowledging their dependence on others. No one would be dismissed as primitive or inferior. No one would be taken for granted. What about us? Thrakmor asked. The ones who caused this disaster? The speaker for Terra considered the question. You will help rebuild what you helped destroy. You will learn to value what you once dismissed. You will spend your lives making sure that this never happens. Again, and if we fail, if we fall back into old habits, then we will leave again, the speaker said simply. And next time we will not come back.